Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the Salesforce Labs 2022. We just started with a lot of tips from Diana Jeff about flows, and we're going to continue with the tips on the best way to handle flow errors. My name is Aleksandra Radovanovic. I'm a business technology product manager at Okta. I'm also Salesforce MVP, platform champion alumni, and Vancouver admin group leader. I have been working in Salesforce ecosystem since 2014, and this is my second Salesforce Labs Day participation. So I'm really excited to be joining all of you watching this and be part of the amazing speakers list today. I have blonde hair and green eyes, and I'm joining you from my home office today. So what we are going to talk about today, we're going to go through the agenda quickly right now. So I'm going to go over the state of the flow, how we came today, how does the flow begin, what declarative automation tools we have in the meantime. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about errors in the flow, because we always know something unpredictable can happen, and we are going to go over how Salesforce Flow is handling that today. I'm also going to talk about a flow and error handling solution from Salesforce Labs and how it can help you handle the error flows. And because we talk about Salesforce Labs apps, we couldn't do it without a demo. And don't worry, if you're on this path with me, if you're working on building flows, upgrading flows, or migrating workflows and process builder to flows, I'm going to give you next steps, what you can do after this session and after today's conference, and what resources you can use to keep learning and get better. So let's quickly go over the state of the flow. So flow has existed in Salesforce for a little more over a decade now, but they were somewhat limited at the beginning and not so easily configurable. Initially, Flow Cloud Builder was not intuitive and that user-friendly. So in 2015, Salesforce tried to help admins, and they released a new automation tool called Process Builder. It was much easier to use than the old Flow, and it was able to perform more complex tasks than the workflow rules. Because of that, Process Builder quickly became the preferred no-code option to automate tasks within the platform. However, performance issues and limitations around triggering conditions became evident the more this tool was used. So Salesforce tried to make improvements. They released several enhancements over the years for the Process Builder, but the tool constraint just came from the foundation of the product, and that couldn't be removed without a complete redesign. So after a long wait, Salesforce finally released a new generation of flows that was known at the time as the Lightning Flow. And in this release, the brand new Salesforce Flow Builder was introduced. The new flows were received with some skepticism, which was kind of understanding because based on the recent experience with Process Builder. But nevertheless, Flow quickly demonstrated superior flexibility and powerful capabilities by addressing the limitations and performance issue we saw in the Process Builder before. So it's no surprise that Flow quickly became the preferred and the favorite tool for declarative automation for all admins and everyone working in Salesforce. So over the next few releases, flows have received a significant number of enhancements, and it's really hard to list them all. We would need a special session just for that, but I'm just going to mention a few of them. One of them is screen flows, which allow admins and developers to deliver guided flows using screens and logic connectors, and they can be invoked via UI. So they can take a user on a step-by-step process journey to complete business requirements, such as creating a record, gathering information, or updating the record. We also have record change flows. So these flows are triggered automatically when the record is created, updated, or deleted, and they support the logic that can be triggered even before the record is written or removed from the database. So really powerful. Flows also have support for Lightning Web Components. Now we can also invoke Lightning Web Components with the flow, granting more flexibility on where the logic and functionality reside, and take full advantage of all the benefits of Lightning Web Components. Flow also provides support for the API calls. So invocable Apex classes and API calls can be invoked directly from a flow to retrieve information from other systems. Flows also have subflows. So administrators and developers can create flows which execute a specific task or series of tasks. And then these flows can be invoked by other flows who can handle the logic and then sequence of the tasks. They can also be executed in different contexts from a master flow. Flow also run in bulk. So they support bulk execution. That means that they address performance issues when updating multiple records at the same time. And flows have debugging. Like we mentioned, there's always a possibility for something to go wrong, and the Flow Builder graphic interface makes it easy to read and understand every step during the debugging process. And the last but not least, there are fault path in flows. That's a way to handle errors, and we're going to see how we can utilize that with this amazing lab solution in a second. So these features that I mentioned are just the tip of the iceberg. Flow includes many other traits which make them extremely flexible, powerful, and useful. And I encourage you to check all the resources that Diana just shared in her session before you dive deep into the flows. But like I mentioned, flow can involve a lot of elements. They can have dynamic decisions, they have complex processes and business logic. And in order for the flow to be successfully executed and completed, all the elements have to work properly. If one part breaks, the whole flow throws an exception, the error is displayed, and flow does not complete the execution. While there are many different reasons for a flow to break, there are some common culprits. So the main two reasons are what you can see in the screen, and I'm just going to go and talk through them. One is what we have seen as an error called unhandled error, and that can be caused by many different things, such as using the wrong field or using the wrong variable, or maybe having the wrong logic in the flow, or having too many SQL queries, or not addressing null values in the flow, or maybe triggering a validation rule. So the second most common reason is that the object and the field level security for running user are not set up properly. So in both of these cases, user will see the error message and that it's not always user-friendly. It can usually contain the code that further explain the error that happens, but that might be just too much technical information. However, both of these issues are identifiable and interim fixable. So in fact, Salesforce actually sends an error email in the default language of the user who ran the flow. So it's not like error just happens and we don't know what to do next. The email that is sent is being sent to either the admin who last modified the flow that just ran and had an error, or the Apex exception email recipient. So flow error emails are really important resource for debugging. They give you the specifics related to the flow problem, and they're extremely helpful with all the information during the troubleshooting. The email includes the error message from the failure, the details about each flow element that the flow interview executed. They also identify the element where the error happens, and they give the link to the visualization of the failed flow. However, we can make this error notification process even better. We can improve the user experience when something unforeseen happens and interrupts the flow execution. So this is where flow error handling solution comes handy. So flow error handling solution is a flow solution from Salesforce Labs and is a great and a free app that helps admins provide more user-friendly of handling flow errors. And that goes not only for admins who are working in the org, but this solution also helps end users. This solution is easy and straightforward to install from the App Exchange. I'm going to show you in a second how that works. And it contains two main pieces that you can use to implement this error handling solution. So the first part is called custom metadata type, and it collects information about everyone who needs to be notified when flow error happens. As with any custom metadata type object, you can also add custom field, you can gather more information, you can enhance the information you are sharing. So this is a really powerful addition. The second part of this package is the error handling subflow that gathers all the information needed to notify admins and end users about what happened and send that information to the recipient list in that custom metadata type that we just mentioned. And in order to show you how to use these elements, this flow solution also contains a sample flow. So you can play around with it to see how error handling works. You can also clone this sample flow and adjust it so it fits with your need. Or if you're more experienced, you can create your own flow from the scratch and then utilize this business need, utilize this solution in it. And don't forget, the maintenance is important as well. So to keep the tech debt at bay, update your existing flows with fault path to ensure good user experience. So We talked about this a lot, but let's see how this looks in a demo. So quickly going to the Flow Solution Salesforce Labs page. This is how it looks like. This is Jessie Rimpf. She's an amazing Salesforce developer who built this app. And you can get this app just by going on the right side and clicking on Get It Now. Once you click it, you will be prompted to go to your org and install this package. Once the package is installed, it's going to look like this. So if you look at it, it's pretty simple. What I'm showing on the screen is a package details for error handling subflow package. And you can look that the metadata components included in the package are very light. Like I mentioned, there is a custom metadata type, error email recipients, and we have two flows. One is a sample flow to debug, so you can actually look at how we can utilize the solution. And then there is a debug flow, error handling flow that you will be invoking from your flow as a subflow. And let's quickly look at the custom metadata type. If you're not familiar with the custom metadata type, there are good trailhead badges around this, but this custom metadata type will actually enable you. It's an object that's actually have just one custom field, and that custom field gathers the information, gathers the email list from everyone who needs to be notified about the error. So let's dive into the flow. So this is the flow I built. It's a really simple flow. It's a record retrieval flow on a case object. It triggers when a record is created. And what it does, it picks the case information, it gets the information from the related account, and then it updates the case record with the support level coming from the account information. But as I mentioned, a lot can go wrong. So let's go into debug mode that we just mentioned and see what happens when we try to run this flow on one of my cases who is just being created. So this yellow line is showing us what happens in the flow. Flow started, then went into the get records element, get the account information, and then as you can see, there is a little crossed circle here, which means that on the update records element called update case support level, there was an error. Let's go through the steps of the flow. Like I mentioned, my flow started, it went to the get records, it successfully found records. So we got the case that was created. We also got the information from the account, but what we can see here is that account support level here is null. So that means we can actually expect the error because we need to update that field. And that's exactly what happened on the element of update records, update case support level. The flow started updating the record, but then the field was missing. So we got an error. And this is the error message that says this error occurred, required field missing, required fields are missing, and then the field is labeled. So this is what I see in the debug mode. But what happens when the user runs this? This is what Salesforce is telling us. Because we have a fault path, the error has been handled. So this is not something that's going to just go to the user and just throw the exception. We will actually handle this gracefully. So what happens is, after that fault element, I do have an assignment element. And that assignment element is pretty simple. It just assigns the location of the error, and I'm giving it the case number. So once this error happens, my user and my admin can see where the location happened, where the error happened, what's the case number. And after this assignment, this path goes to the subflow. And this subflow, let's quickly look into it. It's, again, really simple. It gets the information, like I mentioned, from that custom metadata type. So it's an error email recipient object that we're looking into, and we're just pulling one value. That's one field, comma separated email list. That's that email list that I mentioned, that contains email address of everyone who needs to be updated and informed that error happens. And then we have two simple email actions. One is the send email core action that is sending email to admin. We can define the variable that will contain the message we are going to send to the admin. We can define the subject as well. The best practice would be error in the flow and then include the flow name. As in, you can see, we can use the merge fields here. We can define recipient email addresses, and this is where the custom metadata type is coming. We are sending this to email addresses for the admin, and you can also further customize this one. You can select specific sender email address. If you don't want it to come from Salesforce or from undefined, like running user, you can define maybe admin email address so user can reply to the message if they want to. And same goes for the current user. And maybe this part is even more significant because with the default Salesforce flow error, the user does not get anything. They just see the error message. But with the flow solution from Salesforce Lab, you can actually send an email to a current user. Again, define the body of the email, tell the user, we saw that the error is that the error happened for you, your admin is looking into this, don't worry. And you can define the subject and all the same fields. So if I go back to my flow, go through my steps, I see that after assignment, I have assigned the case number. The flow subflow has ran, and we got a case, we got a lookup email admin, which means we looked at the custom metadata. We got the email address that we're going to send it to, and then we're sending 2 emails, one to the Salesforce admin, one to the Salesforce user who ran the flow and saw the error. And if you want to look how those emails look like, this one is the default email that you get from Salesforce. It goes through all the steps. It has the flow details, and then it says how the interview started, it goes through the steps, and then it says that error occurred, but because we have the fault connector, the fault path, the interview was actually not finished, executed the element that was there to handle the fault. This is the email that the admin will get. The admin will be notified that there's a flow error message, and the flow error message will be included in it. We will get the name of the flow. We will get the name of the current user, so admin can reach out to them to see what happened. And then we can include the variables from the case that we want to. So in this case, we included just the case number and the status of the case. And here is the user-friendly way. What happens is that this is the email that the end user is going to get. So once the user tried to run run the flow to create a case, they will see an error, and this is the email they will get. It will say that while you were using Salesforce, an error occurred in the flow. They will get an email of the flow, and your Salesforce administrator has been made aware of the issue. This is really the best way to handle the flows, especially when it comes to end user experience, because you will not leave your user confused and scared that something broke and not being sure what the next steps should be. So we talked through the demo, but let's see what you want to do next. So as we just saw, Salesforce Flow is a really powerful tool that can be used to build a complex business solution. And as Diana mentioned, with retirement of the workflow rules and process builder, we can say with confidence that this is the most powerful tool that the Salesforce admin has at their disposal. So the use cases for Flow are endless, but there are numerous situations where the Flow will show the error in the execution. And if you're on a journey to migrate your declarative automation to Flow, here are the steps that will ensure your success. The first one is to plan the automation audit. So go through your org, make sure to write all the processes that you have, and then write the tools that are used to execute those processes. Mark what's being executed through Process Builder, what's being executed to workflow rules. If you have flows, mark what has been executed to flows, and then work on planning that migration. And while you're doing that, don't forget to install flow error handling solution. I'm going to give you a link in just a few minutes, but install the package like we just showed you, and you can, before you even try to apply it, try to play around with that sample flow to see how you can use it. The next step would be migrate workflow rules and process builders to Flow. So in my org, we have moratorium on workflow rules and process builder. We are not creating any new of these tools. So we just go quickly to Flow. And we are also actively working on migrating all workflow rules and process builders to Flows. And thanks to the flow error handling solution, if there are errors in the flow, you can now have a friendly way for users to handle them. And also, don't forget to update your existing flows. Like I mentioned, there is nothing like a technical debt that can prevent you from growing your org and maintaining it in a proper way. So make sure that all your Salesforce flows have a fault path where needed. And as always, don't forget to test your automation in lower environments, such as sandboxes, and then do post-deployment testing as well to ensure a good user experience. So what to do next? Here are some resources that I found useful for myself, and I hope that you will find useful on your journey as well. The first one is the link for the Flow Error Handling Salesforce Labs solution. That's the app we talked about today. And if you go on this link, you will see, you will go to the page of the application, you will see the comments, you will see the reviews, and there are several slides that can that will explain how to install and how to use this app. The second one is definitely unavoidable resource today. That's a trailhead module called Flow Troubleshooting. Definitely go through that one, play within your playground org, try to create a flow, try to troubleshoot it, learn on the different ways how to troubleshoot flows and how to handle error messages. The third one is a Salesforce documentation about the flow. I know this might be a basic one, but as I mentioned, flow is really complex. Flow is growing. As Diana talked, like there is a lot of happening in the flow right now. So keep your eye on the Salesforce documentation because that's the most reliable source you can have about what's happening with the flow. And the last but definitely not the least, do check the Automate This video series by Jennifer Lee. She's a Salesforce admin evangelist. And in this series, she talks about how to migrate workflow rules and process builder to flows, how to handle flow errors. And she also gives real life use business cases that you can use flows to solve business problems. So you can check all these resources and see what works for you in addition to what Diana mentioned. And are you looking to continue your Salesforce Labs journey today? I hope you do. So first step would be check out all the apps we're going to talk about today and check all the other amazing Salesforce Labs apps in the link you can see on the screen and keep exploring these free apps on the App Exchange because they are being updated and published every day. Also, don't forget to follow Salesforce Labs on Twitter to participate in those fun sweepstakes Casper just talked about and for a chance to win exclusive Salesforce Labs branded bike. You just need to answer some few fun questions about Salesforce Labs that I really hope you know. And finally, be sure to stay on for another amazing session coming up in just a few minutes, where you will hear from Eric Schultz about using Flow to simplify integration. Thank you again.